Florence Villemino joins me now on set for a look at International Press Review. Now, we're going to start with the crisis in Syria. Of course, it's continuing to grab headlines today. The British press focusing on divisions within Parliament over this military operation.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the front page of The Independent that talks about a tale of two wars. So the war in Syria and also the war in Parliament. Now, yesterday, according to The Independent, Prime Minister David Cameron suffered a, quote, dramatic and humiliating defeat in the House of Commons on this British involvement in Syria. Now, Labour and Conservatives are extremely divided on the issue, and it's getting quite ugly with a lot of insults flying around. We can take a look at another article in The Independent that covers this issue. Downing Street is especially furious at this man, so Labour leader Ed Miliband. They blame him for derailing the Prime Minister's plan to get involved in this military action. And the language they've been using is very colorful. I can't really say it on air, but you can read more about it in The Independent. For instance, it quotes one Downing Street source saying that Number 10 and the Foreign Office think Miliband is a beep beep and copper-bottomed beep, and the French hate him now. He has no chance of building an alliance with the U.S. Democratic Party, so harsh language.
Some strong language there. Okay, well, this really has cast a shadow, this vote, over what military action will actually take place. What more can you tell us about that?
Well, let's take a look at a cartoon in the International Health Tribune by Shapat, which points out just how this is put into question. You can see a U.S. warship firing a missile towards Syria, and the plume of smoke there is a question mark. Now, in its editorial, the International Health Tribune says that questions abound on action in Syria, and though there should be some sort of an international response to the use of these chemical weapons, for now, according to the International Health Tribune, Obama hasn't really presented a convincing legal or strategic case for any kind of military strikes. And they say that any kind of action, whether it's military or other, must be tailored to advance a political settlement between Assad and the opposition.
All right, well, Flo, it looks, though, that we do have some other papers that are indeed arguing for intervention.
Absolutely. The Economist has a very clear position on any potential military action. Hit him hard, says The Economist, with this photo of Bashar al-Assad. Now, their argument here is that the time for inspections is over. The U.S. has three options. Basically, it can do nothing, it can launch a sustained assault with the clear aim of removing Assad and his regime, or the third option, they can hit Assad more briefly and punish him for using what they call these weapons of mass destruction. Now, they say no option is perfect, but The Economist argues that the last option is the best. They say that with a little luck, perhaps these calibrated strikes might even scare Assad to the negotiating table. And they say that before any missile is fired, though, Obama must give Assad one last chance, so a clear ultimatum to hand over any chemical weapons within a short period of time.
All right, now how is the Arabic press reacting to this escalation?
Well, let's take a look at two articles. First, in Al-Hayat, which is a pan-Arab paper that's seen as being anti-Assad. Now, this is an editorial that says that in the face of the escalation here, the Assad regime really has two options. One, which is to, accept defeat, which would be very humiliating, or the second one, which would be to put up a fight. But this seems like a complicated option. Now, regardless of what happens, these U.S. strikes, according to this article, will mark a new chapter in the region. And, it can really go either way. It can either bring peace to the region, or it could lead to some horrible domino effect, which would really lead to an explosive situation in the whole region. Let's look at an article in Al-Akhbar as well, which this time is a Lebanese newspaper that's close to Hezbollah, so seen as being pro-Syrian. They say it's really unclear whether or not these airstrikes will actually go through. If you ask military sources, they say yes, these strikes are imminent. But if you ask political sources, they say the strikes are being postponed. Basically, the whole region is holding its breath.
All right, and finally, a journalist from Slate plays a video game that simulates a U.S. invasion of Syria.
That's right. This is a game called Combat Mission Shock Force from the publisher Battlefront.com. Now, what's interesting is this game was actually created in 2007, so it's proof that life can sometimes imitate art, and it examines how a U.S.-led invasion in Syria would be fought. Basically, the premise is that Syrian state-sponsored terrorism has prompted this U.S. or NATO-led invasion with the goal of ousting Assad. So what did the journalist from Slate learn? Well, he says that, if the regime change goes the way Washington hoped it would go in Iraq in 2003, everything will be all right. But if Assad's troops stand their ground and fight, they will lose, but they'll inflict casualties on America and its allies. And is that a price that Obama is willing to pay?
All right. Well, Florence Villemino with a look at the international press. Thank you. And do stay tuned to France 24. We'll, of course, have more headlines coming up right after the break. Stay with us.